If Severeese was fit, would Caleb Clark have taken that 11 jersey off Rieko Ioane? Again, just operating on the fact that the selectors have said they want to try everyone.
I think Billy Proctor would have to do a lot of, which is weird to say, I think he'd have to do a lot wrong to lose that jersey, even though he's not really been around long enough. He only debuted last year, but I just don't think there's anyone else who has the balance of distributing the ball and also being able to run the ball.
I think the mass marketing and social media and corporatisation of the team has and is still diluting this somewhat, and it concerns me.
Welcome to the DSPN.
John Walker wins the 1,500 metres gold medal at the Olympic Games. The All Blacks have won by 29 points to 9.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin. I am Lachlan, producer alongside. We are the DSPN. It's all about the All Blacks today. Team name for the second test against France, Wellington on Saturday. Assistant coach Jason Ryan joining us on the podcast. As well as that, former All Black and Strawn running his expert eye over it. We'll play a little game of glass half full to look at some of the changes that have been made. We'll also discuss the French deciding not to go to the Tron. Yeah, they're shunning Hamilton the week before the third test next week to say, no, we're going to stay in Auckland. If you're listening on Rover or if you find your favourite podcasts, welcome. You get the full show that we put out most days during the week, every afternoon. And if you're watching here on the DSPN YouTube channel, where we break it down into smaller bits for you to consume. Leave us a comment as always. We welcome that. And click that subscribe button. We're well on the way to 9,000 subscribers. We want to hit 10,000 before the end of the year. And it really does help every time you click and subscribe. It means we can provide this content for you for free. I want to revisit our attitude a little towards the All Blacks. And that's the sermon today. We start the show the same way every day.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
If the question is, what is the most important thing about our All Blacks? The answer is winning. I think we need to revisit a little our attitude towards and about our number one national team. I mean, what the All Blacks are actually about. Why they are one of the world's most respected and revered sports teams in any code in any country. And the answer is winning. Just one word, very simple, winning. And it really is as basic as that. Win every game. Win every time we play. That is what the mystique is. That is what the aura is. That's where it originated from. That is what the marketeers now call brand. The brand is winning. Excellence achieved and acknowledged by winning. Over many decades, over more than a century in fact. When the men in black turn up, they're here to kick your butt. That's why we play. This isn't a promotional experience. It's never a friendly game. The All Blacks' attitude was as professional as any sports team ever before the game became professional. We are there to win. I think the mass marketing and social media and corporatisation of the team has and is still diluting this somewhat, and it concerns me. Last year we lost 4 games. In terms of results, that defines a bad season for the All Blacks. Any other team, I don't care about, but I'm talking about the All Blacks. Losing to 2 or more opponents in a year is kind of failure. That's how I grew up with my team, and I refuse to change my thoughts around it. The younger folk tend to accept losing a lot easier than us old fogies. The country used to go into sporting mourning when we lost, apoplexy. The next week, everyone at work would have a little sulk on. I think in regards to this team, the All Blacks, that's a healthy thing. These days, the attitude, though, has shifted somewhat. Well, rather a lot. For most younger fans, and by that I mean those under 30, and I'm not being critical here, I'm just stating what I believe is fact. So long as the players post a few Instagrams afterwards and they can scroll a few natty TikTok selfies, losing doesn't seem to sting as much. It doesn't linger. As long as the haka was performed really well and we did a few meme-worthy try celebrations, I think the attitude is, I can accept losing some games. Not me. Not ever. Not never. Mystique, aura of invincibility. These aren't buzzwords some ad guy guru type guy writes on a whiteboard. Although sadly these days they increasingly are. These soulless cliche clowns bandy these terms around while selling us armpit roll-ons and sugar pop lolly drinks. Meaningless. They are in fact words and terms you can only ever earn. By results and by winning. By being the most winningest team in the sport for over 100 years. That's who the All Blacks are. Truth is, though, right now we aren't the best team in the world. We know that. We haven't been since 2019. That's over 6 years now, and I believe that's plenty long enough. Knowing that fact should hurt All Blacks fans. We should be rankled by it. We should never accept being second or third best. To get back to being number one, to being the team to beat at the next World Cup, we need to get back, I believe, to thinking, wanting, demanding, winning. And yes, of course, we're going to lose the odd game. We always have. In our whole history, we've only ever had a handful of unbeaten seasons. That's sport. That's how it goes. But it's the refusal to accept losing is what defines our team. It always has. The fear of losing, Sean Fitzpatrick called it. That's the foundation stone of our 80+% win record over 100 years. That's what creates the myth, fuels the fear, is the aura. Win. Just win. Keep winning. Do that and everything else takes care of itself. Sponsors, corporates, fans, social media, website clicks, TV ratings, water cooler talk, community-minded charity profiles, every whiteboard buzz guy, smiley marketing guy wants to spoon you with. The All Blacks are about winning, nothing else. Win, and it takes care of everything else. The All Blacks have been named, then a couple of changes and one positional change. So, the front five, De Groot, Taylor, Newell. Patrick Tuipulotu comes in for Scott Barrett. Fabian Holland keeps his place. Loose forwards exactly the same as it was for the first test. Tupu Vaa'i, Leo Willie and Artie, Roigard, Bowden, Barrett, Jordan, Billy Proctor. And the back three changes slightly. Rieko Ioane goes to the right wing. Caleb Clark comes in on the left wing. Will Jordan at fullback. Tokeaho, Norris, Tossi, Samapeni, Karifi. There is your bench. Ratima and McKenzie. And Tavatava Nawai in on his debut in Wellington. We expect to see some of him. So, much to discuss, as always, about the All Blacks. Yes! Lachlan. So, 3 new faces in the 23. Are you surprised at all? The only surprise for me is that Tupaea is not in. And I don't know whether that signals that he's done anything right or anything wrong, but Tavatava Nawai was always going to come off the bench at some stage, wasn't he?
Yeah, I actually thought he would have come off the bench in the first test.
Given it was in Dunedin, home track, all of that?
Yeah. No, Tupaea's done nothing wrong. I don't think he had enough time to really do anything wrong last weekend in Dunedin. But again, I just think it's the All Blacks who are wanting to, the coaches and the selectors wanting to see different players and different combinations. And I think again, we talked about this a little bit last week, that if this was the Springboks or a full I don't really know if we can talk about full strength French sides because, geez, we didn't do too well against a B or C team. But I think if it was a stronger opponent and a more important test, not saying this one's not, I think obviously we'd see different sort of players picked and whatnot, but I think it's just a case if they want to see how well Tavatava Nawai goes.
Yeah. Yes! Win this test, and I think all of the rest get a run in Hamilton. I expect Brodie McAllister to play in Hamilton, because you win this test, they win the Dave Gallagher Trophy, they wrap up the series. Is it going to be a bit like that? Not that the third test is a dead rubber, the All Blacks want to win every single test, but there will be more changes made, I'd expect, for that third test.
I think the fact that they have forecasted they will be doing this, the coaches, means that it
giving
absolutely,
everyone a run.
Yeah, that it will happen. I think it's something that, you often see the opposite happen, where they say, no, we're going to put out the best team we possibly can, the best team that we think's the best to win this test, blah, 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 and then they'll make some changes. That's sort of what All Blacks coaches of the past, I think, have done, whereas this group's like, no, we want to give everyone a run, we want to see how certain players go, which means they absolutely will rotate this team.
Tupu Vaa'i. I think this one's really interesting. The fact that he stays at 6, that to me is the signal for South Africa. That absolutely says that the All Black selectors are looking for some extra height as far as the loose forward trio are concerned, and they're determined that he is going to be the number 6. So I wouldn't be surprised if he plays all 3 of these tests at 6. They want to give him much game time before we take on the Rugby Championship, and the Springboks, of course, aren't first up. We've got Argentina first up, but I get the feeling now that he's locked in at 6 unless he gets injured.
I don't know. I mean, you could look at it a couple of ways. You could look at it as they are very happy with how he's gone at that position. And
he's only played the one game in this.
Well, this sort of go-round. Mm-hmm. So then they just want to keep giving him the experience in the role. Or maybe they're unconvinced still, and they kind of want to give him more time to adjust to the role. I don't know.
Yeah, because he was okay in that first test.
He was good.
He wasn't outstanding. He was okay, I thought. I thought he's played better at lock in the last year for the All Blacks, to be fair.
Yeah, but to be honest, there wasn't really a player the only player that for me really stood out for the All Blacks last weekend, just quickly, was actually Damien McKenzie. I think apart from that, I don't know, Fabian Holland, for example, people talk about him, but he was a quiet operator in many ways. I think Bowden Barrett was good, but I don't think anyone really, there wasn't like 3 or 4 guys who stood up and you thought, geez, that was a mighty performance. So I think Tupu Vaa'i is like every other player on the All Blacks last weekend. So obviously it would be great to see him be a bit more of a impact on both sides of the ball this weekend, but I don't think he did anything wrong.
Hard to be better though than winning every single line out though.
Oh no, yeah.
How do you get better than that?
This is the thing. It's kind of like not calling myself a smart analyst of the game, but I think it's like a casual fan versus one who probably understands how rugby is played a bit better, where it's easy to look at an Ardie Savea, a barnstorming run, or Will Jordan, slicing the defence, thinking they had massive performances, when it's hard to sort of pick up on the quieter operators. And I think one thing I didn't quite realise until post-match was our line-out was really good.
Yeah, perfect.
Because you talk about it when it goes wrong, but when it goes well, it's almost like, that's what should happen.
See, this is the other thing. Yes! Aerial threat. Okay, we won the line-outs, but just in terms of taking care of the ball in the air, that was pretty messy for us. So was the defence as well. So, the real advantage the All Blacks have, and this is about the strength and depth we're creating, is that Scott Barrett goes. I mean, there's your captain, and he, to me, is one of the best locks in the world, absolutely world class, and I'll argue with anyone about that. But Patrick Tuipulotu, massive experience. It's almost a seamless transition.
It is a bit taller as well.
Yeah,
I guess less. I don't know. Can you call Barrett athletic? I guess he's more athletic, or maybe more of a ball runner than a Patrick Tuipulotu. Then again, Patrick Tuipulotu is a pretty good ball runner, so I'm not saying he's not good at it. But it is kind of like for like in terms of the experience, for sure. Yeah, he's been playing longer than Scott Barrett, I'm pretty sure. Tuipulotu.
All right. Yes! The 9-10 combo. Again, I think that is the combo going ahead all year. I just think that the more these guys play together, Beauden Barrett and Cam Roigard, the better that they get. Beauden Barrett took care of the ball really well in that first test. That's who you're going to see injury permitting against the Springboks. I don't think Damian McKenzie's going to wrest that jersey back.
No, at this stage, I would think for the Hamilton test, Damian McKenzie will get the start.
Yep.
I think one thing that's important is guys who play for Wellington or mainly the Hurricanes and their experience at that ground with the swirling wind,
good point,
getting a start. I remember this many years ago. It was like 09, 10 or 11, around there. And Dan Carter was starting at 10 for the All Blacks. I think Piriwepu either started at 9 or came off the bench. And Piriwepu was a good goal kicker, which no one really talks about. But Carter just couldn't get anything. He was like 1 for 6 or something. It was appalling. And then Piriwepu took over and nailed about 3 straight kicks because he knew how to kick at the cake tin. And I think that's with Cam Roigard with his box kicking and Beauden Barrett with the general play kicking as well. And then you've got Jordie with the goal kicking. You've got 3 blokes who played for the Hurricanes and have played at that ground a lot. They probably know the conditions and can judge it just a little bit better than a Damian McKenzie or a Cortez Ratama.
Let's talk midfield then. Because, again, staying with this midfield, and Proctor was okay in that first test. He wasn't outstanding. He had a couple of that big defensive misread, but he was okay. Again, I think that this is a look ahead to the Springboks. I can't see Rieko Ioane coming back into that midfield at the moment.
No, I think one of the things that it's easier to pick on, well, not really pick on, he didn't really do anything too spectacular or too poor, which is kind of in between for Billy Proctor. There was a moment where it might have been one of the tries that was disallowed. I think it was one that Will Jordan got in the corner, that I think was the Pasilo Tossi obstruction, maybe. Could have been a different one. But Billy Proctor got the ball and spun around and sort of almost put us back to the defence, protected the ball and passed it on to, I think it might have been Damian McKenzie, which was a great indication of just smart distribution and then created the opportunity. No, I can't. I think Billy Proctor would have to do a lot of, which is weird to say, I think he'd have to do a lot wrong to lose that jersey, even though he's not really been around long enough. He only debuted last year, but I just don't think there's anyone else who has the balance of distributing the ball and also being able to run the ball as well as he does in that position right now.
I wonder if Severis was fit, would Caleb Clark have taken that 11 jersey off Rieko Ioane? Would they have brought him in? Again, just operating on the fact that the selectors have said they want to try everyone. So now Rieko has centre, now left wing, now he goes to right wing. So obviously that they're still really intent on him keeping a place in this 23 at the moment. Or is it just because of the injury?
I'm not sure, actually, because again, we talked a bit about the rotation of the team before and it's going to happen. Apart from Scott Barrett and Severis forced to changes, there's only one other change, which is on the bench. Caleb Clark, Severis. There we go. And the only other change that's unforced, in terms of injury, if that makes sense, was Tavata Vanawe coming into the bench, which means that they actually haven't actually rotated the squad probably as much as we might have thought they would have. So,
but then again, don't change a winning team thing. I think they've got to give most of these guys another chance.
Which one are you going to
do?
Are you going to give guys minutes, or are you going to keep a winning team? You got to do one or the other.
Well, the first and foremost, as I said at the start of the show, is win the goddamn game.
I know, but the coaches have talked about they want to give guys minutes.
But they want to win the game first and foremost.
Well, you can't do both.
Yeah, but there's also, I think, enough signs there in the first test to suggest that, hey, the way we're trying to play if some of those passes had come off, if one or two of those tries had have come off, that would have been a lot more comfortable win than 31-27. So give these guys another shot at it. If we win again in Wellington, which we should do, we're 2-0 up in the series, then you can start making the changes.
Okay, then let's say you win that. Let's say they win in Wellington by a comfortable amount. It's a good performance. The Hamilton test doesn't matter as much, even though it's still a test and it's an All Blacks test. It matters, but not as much. So then you say you give someone like Tohu Kiaho a start. You might bring McAllister onto the bench. But
you don't say McKenzie will probably start at 10.
McKenzie will say, but McAllister doesn't get the start. Ollie Norris might not get it. It's like there's guys who aren't even in the 23 who we want to see play, but you're only giving them one test to make an impact, and then you won't even have room for them all. So the idea of giving guys minutes doesn't really matter. So then you get into this nasty area of a Peter Gus Sol Kula, or even Aidan Ross. No one really talks about how Aidan Ross got called into a test side, I think, in 2022. And I think he played one test and then didn't get a look in after that. George Bell last year. As much as these guys are talking about how they want to rotate the team, and when I say these guys, the All Blacks coaches and selectors, they want to rotate the team and give guys minutes. Well, there's going to be a whole bunch that miss out anyway. So either you do kind of stay true to the All Black mentality of
balancing act,
keeping that winning team, or you do give guys minutes.
Oh, look, I'm a traditionalist, and I like the idea that if these guys have played well in that first test, keep them there.
I agree.
Give them another jersey. Give them somebody else has got to rest the jersey off that.
I want to see Tupaea start at 12, but I want to see Tuipulotu Vaa'i actually get like 50 or 60 minutes at 12 as well.
Let's talk about that.
I want to see
guy.
Narawa get a start.
And I wonder whether, because I don't know, they would have looked at it. Fabian Holland debuted on his home track, or for the Highlanders. He plays obviously for them in Dunedin, but Tuipulotu Vaa'i, that was another obvious one. He could have played at his home track in Dunedin. Maybe they're just looking at him and just said, yeah, we'll just take some pressure off you and make it easier that you come off the bench in Wellington, as opposed to all the storylines about playing for I don't know. I mean, who knows what's going on in those minds? But I'm really keen to look at this guy, and I reckon he comes on in the midfield. I think Tuipulotu Vaa'i comes on for Proctor at some stage. I think you'll keep some experience.
Jordie, wouldn't it?
Would it? Well, would you?
Is he more of a second five than a centre?
Well, maybe.
I just love the way that he there's an element of Ma'anunu about him where he just absorbs defenders, or he bumps them off. It's one of the two.
Plus his ability to win ball at breakdown.
Yeah.
Or do you just swap him for the wing? This is going to be a fascination, isn't it, on the weekend? I mean, do you just bring off one of those wingers and put him on the wing? But seeing as the fact that he's just so good in that area, you can make use of it.
I mean, if Beauden Barrett's having a good game and isn't looking too tired, you could have Damien McKenzie at fullback, have Jordan on the wing, and then have both Tuipulotu Vaa'i.
Has he got options
in the midfield?
You've
got options.
How many minutes is McKenzie going to get this week? Because he played the whole test last week.
I don't know. I guess. How much do they prepare for that? Do you think they sit? Genuine question. Do you think the coaches sit there and go, okay, well, we're going to play Beauden for this amount of time, or we're going to play Jordan for this amount of time?
Okay,
because what if Beauden's having an absolute stinker, but you plan for McKenzie to come on for Will Jordan?
There's a lot of substitutions these days that take place in Test match rugby where you can set your watch to it and go, okay, 55 minutes.
Oh, the front row.
Yeah, and off they come.
Absolutely.
However, there is the curveball that gets thrown at you. A guy gets injured in the first minute and you throw him on. So.
Yeah. Anyway, back to your question.
McKenzie will come on if there's no injuries in the second half, and I'd say he'll play
25 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, for sure. He'd give, and again, he played bloody well
at 10. I think he needs to be put at 10. You can't put him at fullback.
All right. Yes! Do we care about their team? It gets announced tonight.
I'm not going to act like I know too many of the players. I know a few more after last weekend. I know that left winger, whose name escapes me right now, with the red headgear, who played
number
really well.
8. He played pretty well.
Yeah, he did play well. The first 5 is a hell of a boot on him, but.
I don't care about them, to be perfectly honest.
Well, we shouldn't.
I mean, just as far as I'm concerned, every time the All Blacks play, they wear green jerseys or yellow jerseys or blue jerseys.
It doesn't
or
matter
red
with the All Blacks.
That's it.
Yeah. Which sounds a bit arrogant, but
well, that's where 100 years have been, the most winning team in the world. So we're out there to kick your ass. That's the whole point.
But
of
it's
it,
like I remember in 2014, I think it was, the Broncos were over. This quote stuck to me, and so many teams and coaches have said it. I don't know why, but this one coach, it's just stuck to me. It was when the Broncos were here for a preseason game against the Warriors.
How did you bring the Broncos into this discussion?
But to be fair, they got absolutely killed by the Warriors, like 48-0 in it was preseason, doesn't matter. And Wayne Bennett went to, and the Broncos had some session with the Crusaders, and Wayne Bennett made a comment to Todd Blackadder about how never worry about the opposition, only worry about yourselves. If you're the All Blacks, you can look at the team being named, that's all well and fine. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Get yourselves sorted, make your own bed, clean your own room, then worry about them.
So there it is, people. There's your 23. As we say, 2 changes, 1 positional change. Leave a comment about it. What do you think about it? Since you mentioned the Broncos, let's wrap this up, okay? Let's wrap this up. Warriors got the Tigers this weekend.
Is that Sunday?
Sunday, 4 o'clock.
Yep. Just before the mighty M1 derby Broncos Titans.
So important for the Warriors just to win these home games from here on in. Because it feels like forever, the Warriors. When did they last play? They played against Yorma, but it feels like such a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does. That was a great day as well.
And Origin last night. God.
How good.
Damn. You New South Wales.
What do we
Laurie Daly, you should never be allowed to coach that team ever again, mate. I mean, that was just watching those first 20 minutes. Those guys weren't prepared for that. Lazy defence, slapping guys as they go past.
Yeah, all over the
Queensland
place.
didn't make a bloody mistake until the 70th minute. That's how you win an Origin game. You don't make mistakes.
You know what was great?
So there you go, Laurie Daly. For all the talk during the week and everything else, it comes down to you. You're the coach, and you didn't prepare our bloody team, mate.
The great thing
God, I was
about
gutted. I stayed up till midnight to watch that.
No, you didn't. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
You were up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, I know. Actually, what I did is because I get up at 4 a.m., I actually went to sleep, set the alarm, woke up at 10, and the biggest
you
battle
would've been
going
just-
on wasn't actually anything on the TV. The biggest battle going on has been sitting there in bed with your headphones on and an iPad in front of you and just making sure that you don't wake up whoever is next door, because if that, I tell you what, war starts if that happens.
Yeah.
So you actually have to watch a game, and everything that happens, you can't hit the pillow. You can't gesticulate. You can't yell at the ref. You're sitting there kind of in a straight jacket just watching it go.
If it's Origin, you're all right. But if it's Man United, the Commanders, or the All Blacks, you'd have to go downstairs.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah.
But no, Queensland absorbed so much pressure early on. New South Wales, throwing some punches, and then they kind of settled down, and then Queensland just got to work.
Yeah.
And they just ran away with it in their first half.
Yeah.
They just kind of stood there, took a few slaps, and went, all right, now we're going to work.
Yeah. 14-0.
great.
It was over at that. I thought at 14-0 it was over. It's so hard to come back 3 scores in the
I got to say,
Origin.
it's quite a.
To come back from 1-0 down as well when I was predicting 3-0. I mean, that Laurie Daly, that's the end of you, mate. You're gone. You're over for you now. Yeah. Find somebody
I think
else.
this happened in 2017 when he lost the job.
same.
But that was quite a sorry performance.
Anyway, let's
from the
pick it.
Blues.
I'm saying All Blacks 13 plus. I know it was tight last week, but I think we go, unless the weather in Wellington is an absolute bazzer, I think we actually run away with this. I think those passes stick this week. We score a couple of extra ties. And TMO, no, stay away. No one wants you there, mate.
This is the DSPN.